The day my teacher shattered my pride, he did not raise his voice. He simply smiled. I was 22, freshly graduated, filled with the kind of confidence that is often mistaken for wisdom. I believed knowledge was something you collected like trophies, degrees, certificates, quotes from famous philosophers. I could recite Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato as easily as I could state my own name. People called me intelligent, and I wore that word like a crown. That afternoon, I stood in the courtyard of the old academy, arguing loudly about what wisdom truly meant. A small crowd had gathered. I was enjoying myself. That was when Master Raman approached. He was not an imposing man. His beard had turned completely white, and his back bent slightly with age. But his eyes were sharper than any blade I had ever seen. He listened to me for a few minutes. Then he asked gently, "Tell me, Hamza, from whom have you learned?" "From the wise," I replied proudly. "From scholars, from philosophers, from those greater than myself." He nodded slowly. "And from fools?" he asked. The crowd chuckled. I frowned. Why would I learn from fools? That was when he smiled, the smile that would stay with me for the rest of my life. The assignment. The next morning, Master Raman called me into his study. The room smelled of old paper and sandalwood. Books lined the walls from floor to ceiling. "I have a task for you," he said. "I am ready," I replied confidently. "For 30 days," he said, "I want you to observe people, not the scholars, not the professors, not the respected elders." "Then who?" I asked. "Those whom you consider foolish." I nearly laughed, thinking it was a test of patience. "And what am I to learn from them?" I asked. "That," he said, "is for you to discover." The first lesson, arrogance. The first person I observed was Karim, a shopkeeper in the market. He was loud, boastful, and constantly belittled his customers. If someone questioned his prices, he would mock them. If someone disagreed with him, he would insult them. I watched as one customer quietly put an item back on the shelf after being humiliated. Within weeks, Karim's shop grew emptier. People avoided him. One evening, I heard him complain bitterly. "People are jealous of my success." But I knew the truth. His arrogance had cost him everything. That night, I wrote in my notebook. Lesson 1: Arrogance isolates, humility attracts. I realized that I, too, had often dismissed others when they disagreed with me. I had mistaken loudness for strength. From Karim the fool, I learned humility. The second lesson, impulsiveness. Next, I observed Bilal, a young man known for his temper. He reacted before thinking. If someone bumped into him, he shoved them back. If he heard a rumor, he spread it instantly. One afternoon, in a moment of anger, he insulted his closest friend publicly. The words were sharp and cruel. The friendship ended that day. I saw regret in Bilal's eyes later, but pride kept him silent. I wrote. Lesson 2: Words spoken in anger cannot be recalled. I began practicing silence when irritated. I learned to pause before responding. From Bilal the fool, I learned patience. The third lesson, carelessness. Then there was Uncle Rashid, a man who never prepared for anything. He laughed at those who planned ahead. "Why worry about tomorrow?" he would say. "Today is enough." When the rainy season came, his roof leaked. When prices rose, he had no savings. When illness struck, he was unprepared. He blamed fate. I wrote. Lesson 3: Carelessness disguises itself as confidence. I started organizing my finances. I prepared for possibilities instead of assuming everything would work out. From Uncle Rashid the fool, I learned responsibility. The breaking point. After 3 weeks, something uncomfortable happened. I began seeing reflections of myself in the very people I observed. In Karim's arrogance, I saw my own pride. In Bilal's impulsiveness, I saw my sharp tongue during debates. In Uncle Rashid's carelessness, I saw the risks I took with my time. I returned to Master Raman disturbed. "Why am I finding myself in them?" I asked. He smiled gently. "Because wisdom begins when you recognize your own foolishness." The mirror of reality. In the final week, I stopped observing others from a distance. Instead, I engaged with them. I spoke kindly to Kareem. At first he mocked me, but slowly he began softening his tone with customers. I apologized to someone I had dismissed during an argument. I helped Uncle Rashid repair part of his roof and showed him how small savings could prevent larger troubles. Something unexpected happened. The more I corrected myself, the more I influenced others. And for the first time, I understood Socrates' words. Wisdom is learned not only from the wise, but also from fools. The return. On the 30th day, I returned to Master Raman. "Well," he asked. "I have learned more in 30 days than in 22 years, I admitted. "And from whom?" he asked softly. "From fools," I replied. He nodded. "Tell me what you discovered." I said, "The wise teach us what to do. The foolish teach us what not to do. Both are teachers if we are humble enough to learn." Master Raman's eyes sparkled. "And what was your greatest discovery?" I hesitated. "That I was not as wise as I thought." He laughed warmly. "Now," he said, "you are ready to begin learning." Years later. Time passed. I eventually became a teacher myself. Students came to me, just as I once went to Master Raman, eager, confident, certain of their intelligence. Whenever one boasted too loudly about their knowledge, I did not argue. Instead, I gave them the same assignment. Observe, learn, reflect, and without fail they returned changed. Because life itself is a classroom. The arrogant businessman teaches humility. The angry friend teaches patience. The careless neighbor teaches responsibility. The dishonest man teaches integrity. The jealous colleague teaches contentment. The gossip teaches silence. The impatient driver teaches calmness. Every flaw we see in others is either a warning or a mirror. The final realization. One evening, long after Master Raman had passed away, I stood in the same courtyard where I once argued about wisdom. A young man was speaking loudly, declaring that only scholars were worth listening to. I watched him with a gentle smile. When he finished, I approached and asked, "From whom have you learned?" "From the wise," he replied proudly. "And from fools?" I asked. He frowned. "Why would I learn from fools?" I smiled, just as my teacher once had. Because I now understood something deeper. The fool is not merely a person who lacks knowledge. The fool is a lesson wrapped in human form. Moral of the story. Wisdom does not come only from books, scholars, or intelligent minds. It comes from observation, reflection, and humility. The wise show us the path to follow. The foolish show us the paths to avoid. If we close our eyes to the mistakes of others, we repeat them. But if we observe without arrogance and reflect without pride, every person we meet becomes a teacher. True wisdom begins the moment we accept that we still have much to learn, even from those we once dismissed. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. A wise person learns from everyone. A proud person learns from no one.